everyone, my name's Rebecca. I'm an ichthyologist, a freshwater biologist, and also I'm a PhD student studying Loricariidae catfishes, which are plecos, and look at their evolution, their diets, their morphology and stuff like that. So today I was actually going to do a video that's quite different to what I usually do, because I don't usually show off my fish and really talk about my fish particularly. So I'm just going to introduce you to sort of my pet fish, and these are not the pet fish that I'd thought I'd get. The whole story behind Baryancistrus is I wanted to try something different, and as bad as it is, and I shouldn't have done it, I saw them as a challenge and something to see how I'd get on with them. Whereas, like, kind of as a challenge anyway, getting them feeding, getting them growing, which is years worth of work, and it's still going on because they're not easy to keep. They are slow growing in terms of Loricariidae, I guess, but they still shouldn't be that slow. And I don't know whether I can give, like, either monthly updates are pointless. It's like I don't even know how big they are. I've never like measured them, so I don't know even whether they've grown reliably or not. I just know that they're there, and I could potentially see some growth. I just don't see the point of disturbing them, and I don't see the point of disturbing them or taking them out because they are not easy to handle. Just to measure them, because I'm not going to sell them. They're just for my personal enjoyment, and they've become my pet fish, I guess, because they're very personable. They're just characters, and there's something to watch at the end of the day, opposed to, I guess, smaller species. I don't always see them. I might only see tails for months, so there's no point really giving updates, maybe yearly updates. But other than that, they're just something. It's not really, I can't really say, oh, they fed this much today, because I don't know. I feed them at night, and during the summer they get courgette because they only like particular varieties. Don't ask me why, and these varieties you can't really buy in the shops, so they have to be grown. But other than that, I hope. So this is the big female, and it really doesn't give any idea of size from this angle at all, or from the side particularly, or from this side at all. So this is the largest, possibly female, most likely female. She is, maybe I bring the camera round, let it focus. She doesn't actually look that big. She's a little bit away from the glass, but she's a reasonable size. You can see her just chilling there. At the moment she's particularly calm compared to what she's like most of the year. She's usually quite nasty, well, she still is quite nasty. Generally she defends her cave there, well, tunnel, which is her particular spot. So she's around, well, I got her over a year ago, so year 6 months. So since then, has she grown? I don't know. And you'll see this with a lot of mine. It's really difficult to tell. And this is just to maybe warn people against this species, because really they should be growing at a much faster rate and growing a lot better, really. And I am trying bulk feeding more, and obviously she has the right diet. Their growth rate in captivity is really poor. So this is the larger female. She's really chill in winter, it seems, particularly. They have had a water change, so the water's a little bit cooler than ideal, but it will peak and will go back up overnight. So I'll just introduce the others in the tanks if we go along. This is one of the possible males. He's quite a bit smaller, so if I get my hand, he is much further away from the glass, but that's him there. He occupies mostly that cave. and the juvenile is not, I've got a much smaller individual that's about probably total length excludes the tail on this fish maybe. That one's had a much better growth rate. So I've had this individual since 2020. So I've now had it about 3 years. It's a bit sort of January 2020. And he tends to sit in there. He's much happier in his cave at the moment, but they are, at this time of year, they seem to be out and about more. And you can see the juvenile, it's not really focusing, is it? Oh, there we go. But the juvenile's just coming out around there, and you can see all the water stains. They don't bother me. That's the much smaller juvenile, and he ranges around a lot more than the others. I was going to show my Baryancistrus xanthelis, but that fish is not out at all. It's totally just hiding. You're going to be around. So, can you see a tail? No. She usually occupies this space, so they each kind of have their own caves apart from the juvenile, who's not particularly fussed at the moment. If I just move the camera out, you can see them there, just sitting there. It's pretty much just caves. The other fish in there have to tolerate them, I guess, because the problem is that these guys are really territorial and in a way predatory. It's difficult to tell, but they aren't tolerant of anything at the bottom, and if it can't move away quick enough, they will go for it. I have seen them actually go for the platies, particularly this big female here. Right, actually, kind of see her size better there, but she is the one that is most likely to go for other fishes. She's really not tolerant. They do feed reasonably well. They are on Rapashi Soy and Green, and that's what they feed on really well. Yeah, there we go. That was the discus just went down, and she was like, no, go away. So they're on that. They get fed every day. I'll be growing courgettes hopefully this year, and then they can have like a constant supply of something just to have always in their gut. That was a platy in the way. You can see she's not nice at all. And that's the thing, even as juveniles, so the really tiny one I actually had to take out of the other tank because she was starting to take on the other fish, and therefore she's probably better off in here. I have got a Panaclus albivermis, the flash pleco, and he was in here, but he just took on all the others, and he's not quite so bad of bulk as I find these guys, so probably better off. He went in there, he went in here, with the Baryancistrus, well, the other Baryancistrus chrysolomus, and they're all quite bulky, so they all can deal with each other. She's worse because she's probably the strongest. She can lift up decor, and when transporting her, she's actually easier to transport using the tunnel, so I kind of treat her a bit like a rodent because she is strong and she will use that bulk. But I'm just not getting the growth rate I want, so maybe feeding more is the answer, and that's probably the reason why they're not so great in most tanks, because being able to feed so much isn't actually that easy. So stuff that doesn't decay quickly, Rapashi is good, it does hold in water for over 24, even 48 hours, so maybe just upping that and doing it sort of afternoon, morning, and then trying other things. The courgettes just have something constantly going through the gut, and in theory they will be having low quality things as a part of their diet, so not just that high quality food. I did put in some New Life Spectrum food, but obviously the platies really like it, and now they're swimming away, and she says go away. Really, she is not. Like, a lot of people say, oh, these fish are lovely. They're really not, especially if you watch them. I've seen them when I had that really stunted male. who never quite recovered from that stunting. He came in really skinny. He'd been in that setup for over a decade, and he never recovered from that. When he fought with my smaller male, or my other potential male, this one over here, they did not tolerate each other. So, and then you could see the proper sparring. Whereas I guess they kind of see her and are like, better not. She is female. And a lot of people talk about breeding these and the gold nuggets. Obviously, even she, I would say, is not big enough to breed. She's not mature enough to breed. And they can breed at that size, but they're obviously heavily stunted, and that comes with its own issues. Whereas the gold nugget is in a similar situation. So she is one of my favourites. She is kind of a pet fish, but she is not the easiest to care for. And I think one of the biggest warnings is the kind of expense of feeding a fish like this that feeds so often, and the food isn't going to be cheap, unlike Pseudocanthus, where you can feed other things, or Scobin and Cistrus, even Panax, who are a lot more tolerant. These guys are very specialised in what they feed on, and this makes them really difficult in captivity. And you don't see that growth rate with other diets, and like Pashy is one of the main ones, the best one for it. Soylent Green or Super Green, I prefer Soylent Green, just because these guys aren't probably just feeding on algae, they're probably feeding on like protozoa as well, whereas a Ketostoma, Decicera, stuff like that will be feeding more on an algivorous diet, a bit more than these guys, but they're still very much within periplankton dwells. And you can see that she hasn't quite got the heavy odontode growth of the adults, so the adults will have much heavier hypertrophoid odontode growth. She's not quite there, which shows that if she's not mature, a lot of fishes aren't going to be mature. I would say she might be a few years old. It's difficult to say because she is wild caught. They're all wild caught. They've never been bred in captivity. But that would be the dream, I guess, to have these spawn. Or, I don't know, if I had a larger tank, I'd get a more mature individual to go with her. But I'll see how it goes. I'm in for the long run, so if they breed, they breed. I'm going to have them forever almost, because these guys do live forever. But you could just see sort of the size of her, and I thought people might want to see some of my fish. Let's see. If I grab my phone light, might be able to see the Baryancistrus xanthellus, which, let me grab the camera along. There you can see that's his cave. He's not particularly fast. She's quite round, and I think the thing is with growth rate is it's really difficult to actually judge. Of course, once the camera, you can see that's the xanthellus. This one has been in the caves non-stop throughout the whole of winter. Oh, you can just see in there, sort of, maybe here's the difference between males and females, because she's not wanting to stay in the cave. That xanthellus always is, and the other xanthellus I have is in the other tank. They're not much more chilled, but it's smaller. But she's just gonna, that's her favourite position at the moment. She's just sitting around waiting. And in the wild, I kind of think of them as cows in a way, when you see them grazing on the rocks. And the platies are just there, annoying her. So dither fish probably aren't the most beneficial thing. The reason I got these platies is really long, and then they have bred. Males are separated from females. There are no males in this tank unless there's one small enough one to potentially be a male. Unless that develops into male, and then if it does, I'll remove it. But you can see her just chilling there. She is more active at night, and I have seen her on top of the wood. and around the wood, so she probably does venture further, but this is her sort of daylight setting. Anyway. So you can see that I don't know whether they've grown, and I'm really critical on trying to actually get good growth rate, because that's what I'm passionate about and that's what I advocate by, and that's part of the problem. And maybe they shouldn't be as common as they are, but that comes with their own issues regarding how common they are, or like fishing them, the industry and stuff like that. Maybe they should come with a warning. Especially the size. A lot of people will buy them thinking they won't get that big. They get bigger than that, because my female is small. In terms of, if she is a mature adult, she's looking like sub-adult, I'd say, maybe. And it's really difficult to say. Unlike Xanthos, there's not as many like photos or videos of them in the wild. But I watch them every day. I see them every day. They're my babies practically. And they're probably the fish that I'm consistently always going to keep, I guess. I love Baryancistrus, their fascination, but Baryancistrus have become a bit of a passion of a group of, or a genus. And I've only got the 2 species. I would like to keep L142, but space, these guys are big enough. I don't really have the space for others unless I converted this tank just for that species. So it's really difficult, to be honest. And there is the ethics of how big they do get, and potentially they do migrate as well within the river seasonally, which is also quite almost impossible to replicate. But I do want to try replicating seasonal variation over the year. So I'll see how that goes, and especially with electricity costs. They do come from the Rio Xingu. I don't know if it's the Rio Erie as well, but they are, I'm not very good with the geography of it, to be honest, but they do experience maybe lows of 28, highs into the 30s. How I'm going to replicate that, I have no idea with electricity costs, because managing 28 degrees centigrade is high enough. 30 plus is going to be eye-watering costs. So I might have to just wait for it all to blow over. Anyway, if you like my video, please comment, like, subscribe. Ask any questions on them, I don't mind, or fish stuff. If you want to see videos of my other fish, I don't think, it's not that I could do pet fish videos on many of them. I don't know if people even want to see my guinea pigs. I doubt it, because it's like, here's a fluffy guinea pig, and I don't know. But I could do, I don't really want to do like care videos for ones that I'm not as knowledgeable on. Like I've got my, the eels you might see swim in the background, that's the Maculatus circumcintus, that's half-banded spiny eels. Got the Tylomelania snails, done 2, maybe 3 videos on that. Platies, done 1 video. The tetra, they're just tetra at the end of the day. So they just do tetra things. They're the purple emperors, I think it is. Those are blue emperors, purple emperors. And the flash, I've done a video on that. But I can do other videos. Anyway, thank you for watching.